this all stems from a meeting that a hedge fund consultant was at on February 25th, right? The very same day and only hours after Larry Kudlow said this on our network. We'll listen and I'll come back to you.
I just want to say, though, as far as the U.S. is concerned, when you look at this, I mean, you had a little higher head count on the infections because of the cruise ship people coming off. We have contained this. We have contained this. I won't say airtight, but pretty close to airtight. We've done a good job in the United States. Hats off to our public health people.
So, Kate, based on your reporting, what happened after Larry Kudlow told our viewers that?
So about two and a half hours after that, Scott, he had a more private session with Board of Overseers of the Hoover Institution, which is a conservative research organization housed within Stanford University. And he moderated those comments to say, we think it's airtight, we think it's contained, but we just don't know. So it was subtle in some ways, but it showed the ambiguity that he and others were dealing with at the time in a franker way than he said on Kelly's show that afternoon.
And you say what was actually said in that private meeting helped fuel the sell-off in stocks. Tell us how.
Well, there were a variety of things that happened at that Hoover meeting. So it took place over 3 days, Scott. It started with a keynote address on the Sunday night, February 23rd, with Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State. And at that point, you had a sell-off, as I'm sure your panel recalls. The market topped on February 19th. And after that, you saw some selling activity, but it really took off Monday, the 24th, Tuesday, the 25th, and into Wednesday, the 26th. And so Kudlow was one of the meetings that sort of sparked some doubts among at least one apparently influential attendee who was at Hoover. You also had the Council of Economic Advisors, Tom Phillipson, who at the time was the acting chair, and others who were on a panel of that council talking about the economy. And one thing Phillipson did that was interesting was he declined to speculate on what GDP growth would be this year in light of the virus. Like, how is the virus going to impact GDP growth? Larry had said previously it would be 200 basis points, but in this setting, from what we're told, Phillipson said it's just too dynamic. I'm paraphrasing here, but it's just too dynamic. I really can't address it. I can't comment on it. That was another sort of tell for this person in the audience whose name was Bill Callanan, who wrote a memo about some of his findings during those 3 days in D.C. and some other one-on-one meetings he had had as well, including with a Democratic senator. He sent this email, sort of a very offhand type of memo. It's about 1,000 words long, but it's not a memo in the traditional sense. He sends this to David Tepper, the founder, of course, of Appaloosa Management, because Tepper and Callanan are in a dialogue at this point about what's going on with COVID. And we can talk a little more about Tepper's position on COVID. I'm sure we should get to that. But essentially, Tepper and at least one of his employees shared this with people they knew in the market. And separately, at the same time, Callanan had shared his findings with at least one client, separate from Tepper, who was not a client. And the word started getting around the market. And believe it or not, Scott, I first heard about this on February 26th, because it was that widespread at that point that one of my contacts called me and said, I worry that this is about to get ugly, and cited some things that person had heard from the memo.
You know how this works, right? You know, once a memo gets out, it sort of starts going around like wildfire, to your point, and sort of everybody gets their eyes on it. And I know you mentioned David Tepper, who I know you also know that I spoke to him last night, and he made the point that his view was already well informed by the time that the memo went out. And if you recall, I'll read you his response right now. This is David Tepper to me last night. We were already concerned about the virus in January after reading the Lancet report, and went on CNBC with a public warning. The information from the Hoover meeting meant little to us by the 24th.